right, Harry, go ahead with the story, if you would.
Okay, we were just moving to photo 54.
Correct.
Does anybody recognize him? That is Standartenführer, which is a colonel, Otto Gunsche. He was a member of Shark Hunters. He was also Hitler's personal adjutant.
Attaché, right? Yeah.
Yeah, attaché, aide-de-camp, whatever you want to call him.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one that carried the bodies outside to be burned,
Mm-hmm.
whose bodies. He wouldn't tell anybody, and he was close-lipped about it until some years ago when, after his wife passed away, I guess maybe that was a sword held over his head. I don't know. But here you look at 55, that's him again. That's one of the last photos ever taken of him. He had just had his 88th birthday. This was some years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. And he was in great physical shape. He was a big man, 6 foot something. And 1.5 weeks, I think it was, after his 88th birthday, his housekeeper found him in the sauna at 9 o'clock in the morning from 3 o'clock the previous afternoon, and the temperature was set at 85 degrees Celsius, which is about 185 degrees Fahrenheit.
He suffered the same fate Rudolf Hess did.
Yeah, only in a different way.
Different kind of a box.
That's correct. Instead of hanging himself
in a jail cell.
Right, with arms that he couldn't lift above his waist.
Right, he died.
He died.
They killed him in a sauna.
Maybe he was getting ready to talk. I don't know. But
where was he living?
In Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Naturally, most of them lived in Germany. So that's, so suspicious.
Now, he was in your organization?
Yeah, he was a member.
And you had spoken to him?
Nope. He just got the magazine. He didn't
want to interact. Okay.
Nope. He just got our magazine, and that was it. And sent us $50 every year. Now, you look down at number 56.
I remember him being quoted as he gave a description of how he had carried with another person the bodies out and burned them.
Right.
Dumped petrol on them and lit them on fire.
Right, and gasoline, of course, doesn't do much toward...
No, you have to get a tremendous heat to burn a body. It's difficult to burn, actually.
Yeah, especially since your body's like, 75% water?
Water, yeah.
Water doesn't burn real good.
Okay.
So...
Well, he stood on that story for a long time, and maybe he was getting ready to write his memoirs, and they were listening to everything. This is 4 or 5 years ago he died?
Something like that. I don't remember off the top of my head.
All right. Well, they kill people all the time.
Oh, right. No kidding.
Yeah.
We're doing a story. This is shifting a bit, but another member of Shark Hunters who was a friend of mine, Georg Haider, who was the political strongman in Austria.
You knew George?
Yeah, sure.
Well, they killed him too.
We're about to come out with a book on that stuff that nobody knows about. Photo taken of his car 1 week before the wreck. Somehow different wheels, different tires, different serial number. But that's another story. Yeah, well, there's another thing. Go to sharkhunters.com, go to previous tours, and click on our Southern Patrol. You'll see us with me with Hyder. I met him in 1990. He was a very decent man.
Yeah, I understand that.
So he got whacked. Hell, even John F. Kennedy got whacked by his own government.
Right.
So anyhow, look at number 56. And all I'm saying is look at number 56 and draw your own conclusions.
Now, let's pause here for a minute.
Okay.
If you can, where did the photo come from? If you can't, no problem.
I got it from my guy in South America who was supposed to get the pictures of Hitler and Eva Braun from Catalina.
Okay.
He didn't say who this was. He just sent it and said, take a look and
enjoy.
You decide. Yep.
All right. When you look at the picture, there is a bandana
over his head, yeah.
on the sun side, which would be our right, his left.
Yep.
We can clearly see the right eye staring right at us.
Mm-hmm.
And I would simply invite you to look at the picture on the right and add a lifetime of stress and pressure and grief, and then look back at the left side, our left. You see the bald head, and
the nose is exactly the same.
It's just older.
Yeah, right. And the downturned mouth, the same, only more pronounced.
Age, stroke.
Oh, yeah. And the ears on the number 56, they're a little bigger, but as men age, their ears get bigger.
So do their noses. Their noses never stop growing.
Oh.
Also, the head is slightly turned, and the ear would present in a more forthright view. I'm not going to say this is or isn't. I'm going to leave this up to you folks. As
right.
they say, take it or leave it. That eye, it's an extraordinary eye looking out from under that bandana.
Yeah, and it's the same kind of little curves underneath the eye in both pictures.
Mm-hmm.
So now the next big question people always ask, why didn't they go after him? And, of course, I respond by saying, who is they? Oh, well, they think for a minute. Well, Israel. Why didn't Israel go after him? Well, there was no such thing as Israel in 1945. Oh, well, then they say, what about the Mossad? Well, there was no Mossad in 1945. And, well, what about America? Okay, we knew where he was. Like I say, we have tons of documents, and in that book, Escape from the Bunker, we reproduced quite a few of them in there. The point, my theory, and that's all it is my theory, but my theory based on 30 years of doing this, plus, as I said, my career field in the Air Force was thermonuclear weapons. We theorized that once he got away, they played let's make a deal. You leave Hitler live out his life quietly in peace, and we'll give you all this technology. Now, when I was in my first few weeks of special weapons, we saw the films of the American atomic bomb program, and the U.S. was struggling. And then all of a sudden, zingo bingo, we had everything we needed.
All of a sudden, we had 2 bombs.
Yeah. And I'm thinking that might be the situation. Now, we know where some of the uranium came from. There was a big cargo submarine, U-234 was the number, and it was a converted mine layer, 294 feet long, 1,600 tons, and the mine tubes were taken out of it. The interior mine tubes were taken out to make room for storage space. And the skipper was a member of Shark Hunters, and I spent a day with him in his house. The first officer was a member, the cargo officer was a member, and the chief radioman was also a member of Shark Hunters. And they were headed for Tokyo, but as they got into the North Atlantic, the surrender order came, and so they came and surrendered in the United States. On board that submarine, they had General Ulrich Kessler from the Luftwaffe and his whole staff. They were going to clean house with the Luftwaffe staff in Tokyo. They had Dr. Heinz Schlicke, who later became a member of Shark Hunters. He was one of the world's foremost authorities on magnetic suppression. They had 2 Japanese technical scientists on board who were also in the Japanese Navy. Back in those days, everybody was in the military one way or another. They had 2 Me-262 jet fighters in crates with all the technological data to rebuild them so Japan could start building jet fighters. And they had 560 kilos of uranium. And they surrendered that in the United States in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And supposedly even Robert Oppenheimer came aboard the boat after it was in. We have a copy of the manifest.
Mm-hmm.
Another one of our members was a swabby back then, and he managed to get aboard the boat, snatch one of the translated copies that the U.S. had. So, no, where did that uranium go? 560 kilos. That's about 1,200 pounds, I guess. Where did it go? Nobody seems to know, and there's no paper trail. It's just sort of, it's in the warehouse with the Ark of the Covenant that Indiana Jones found.
Yeah.
Or we dropped it over Hiroshima. So that's my theory. Leave him alone, let him live out his life in peace, and we'll give you all this stuff. So that's my theory there. Now, we're...
I want to go back to the report that Don Angel carried down there in 1952.
Ah, the two children.
The two children.
Yeah.
Who could they have been? What are the possibilities here?
Well, we know what the possibilities are. We know what we're supposed to think.
Mm-hmm.
But we have nothing more on it. Stern and Adolfo. Now, we know Hitler had a son that he fathered right after World War I, who has long since died. But were these his children? Who knows? Are we supposed to think they're his children? Well, yeah, that's probably what we're going to think, whether that's accurate or not.
You've seen the photo of Hitler and Ava with two children.
Yeah, but if I remember correctly, now I'm going from memory here, I think those kids were Ava's sister's children.
Okay. And that picture was, I believe, taken in Germany anyway.
You're right. It was taken at the Berghof, which no longer exists. It was bombed and heavily damaged, but, you know, if the German government would have had any business sense at all, they would have rebuilt his home, plus Goering's home and Bormann's home that were all up on that mountain, and charged people admission to come up there and see them. No, now they just bulldozed them flat. And they put up a sign where the Berghof stood, which was up on the Obersalzberg, the mountain outside of a little town called Berchtesgaden. Beautiful, incredibly beautiful place. But now they put up a sign saying that this is where Hitler hatched the plans to kill 6 billion Jews.
Oh, how nice.
Every place he went, that's where he hatched the plan.
Right. The idea of these buildings having been blown up, I do know at least one person, an American doctor, who went there to pick up pieces of stones that were rubble. The rubble's still there. Oh yeah, there's a lot of that rubble still around. Somebody brought me back a piece of the toilet, a chunk of porcelain out of Hitler's toilet. But it's nothing but rubble. Now, from the hotel where we stay, the Hotel Zum Turken, which used to be the headquarters of his personal guard, which is only 100 yards away, a lot of times at night, I'll be sitting out on the balcony, and it's pitch dark up there, except you can see red candles burning where the Berghof used to be. Sometimes you go there, people have laid flowers. Whether you like it or not, that's what's happening. And you go there, and the runic sign of the wolf is carved into some of the trees. Also, the runic sign, which means he has risen, which is the upside-down peace symbol, that's carved into some of the trees. And the cops are busy chopping down trees over there. They just have. Well, we know who liquidated around 8 million Germans after the war ended between 1945 and 1953. We know who did that. They were going in there literally and liquidating the remnants of the Reich. In terms of the population. Anybody who had any real strong feelings, and especially the professional class, the scholars and so forth, they were all killed off.